Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with more podcasting action on this Saturday afternoon. It's just past 4 p.m. right here in Singapore. I think for our friend who's based in Ireland, I think it's probably a bit early for him. So we're going to just, dive straight into the introduction first and tell you more about this. Our next special guest, Rafael Pagés, is the co-founder and CEO of Volograms, a startup simplifying volumetric video capture, the best way to capture real humans for augmented and virtual reality and other immersive technologies. Rafael has more than 10 years of experience in the field of 3D reconstruction, both as an entrepreneur and also as a researcher, and he holds a PhD in computer vision. So without further ado, let's bring him on to our virtual podcasting studio. How are you, my friend?
Good morning. How are you doing? Thanks so much for having me here.
I'm incredibly well, and I'm just super excited because I can, talk to an expert in this field. Especially, this has been an incredible week, right? With a lot of new developments, especially in the world of AR, VR, and of course, even in terms of avatars development. I think that suddenly, for the first time, I heard of this new term called avatars because the band ABBA, basically announced a new album for the first time in 40 years, right? And what caught my attention is their first virtual concert in London. And in the making of video they put out, they basically are informing basically all the mainstream and the entire world how, people from industrial light and music can actually help them to merge the digital with the physical. I think these are the exact words of Klaus Schwab, right? When describes the fourth industrial revolution and pitching transhumanism. So I think probably it's a great way to kick off this show about AR VR, right? To talk about avatars. And what's your opinion about holograms? Because 5 years ago when I first heard of holograms, right, and they brought back like Tupac and Michael Jackson on stage, I thought holograms really sucked. And fast forward to 2021, based on this ABBA new announcement, it seems that they have nailed it, right? Because while watching the making of video, I got goosebumps, yeah. And just to build a venue for this is ABBA perfection. This is more than a concert, more than like our generation's Travis Scott or Ariana Grande's Metaverse event in Fortnite. So this means that this is gonna be huge, right? Who doesn't love ABBA? It's like seeing an old friend again. So tell us your thoughts about these avatars. And how is volumetric video changing how we keep good memories alive? Over to you, my friend.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was very interesting that you mentioned the Tupac or the Michael Jackson ones at the beginning, because those are already pretty old. I mean, they happened, 15 years ago or something like that. And they used this very old trick of the pepper ghost, so they were not really 3D or anything like this. They were 2D videos that were manipulated and edited incredibly well. So they created these experiences that shocked the world when they were released. But as I was saying, they were using a pretty old trick that's still being used a lot in the industry and in the movies and stuff like that. But that's very far from the ABBA one. So the ABBA one is a full-fledged 3D models and animated and with the motion capture and everything, which is, I think it's taking everything to a whole new level, right? I think avatars in general right now are everybody's talking about them, of course, because there's no day that we don't hear about the metaverse and how we're going to be interacting with that. And definitely avatars play a very important role. What we do at Volograms is not directly avatars. It's something that I think it's complementary. So an avatar at the end is a 3D representation of a person that you can move, you can animate in a very professional way or in a very, let's say, consumer way by using the trackers in your hands and the controllers, using the position of your head. But that's basically the same that they also use in the movies or what they did with ABBA, right? With the only difference that these ones are really, really high end, create very professionally. So volumetric video is slightly different than this. In volumetric video, what you do is that you record a performance as it is, and then you typically don't reanimate it to make another movement or anything like that. You can if you want to, but in general, it's better to just keep it as it is, so you can keep every little detail of the performance. So if an actor is, lifting the eyebrow slightly, so you're not only going to see how the eyebrow moves, but also all the muscles and everything around it, because it's based on video. So you capture all these little nuances in video, and you don't need to model them in 3D, which makes it far more realistic, even though the polygonal resolution sometimes is even smaller than what you would get from a professional avatar or a professional digital human.
This is fantastic. I think it's also very appropriate to maybe screen share your website. I'm seeing a lot of dance videos. It seems like this is probably bringing to mind immediately like apps like TikTok or even Snapchat, right? Tell us, why are dance videos, a big part of what your team is doing to actually, tell the world about your technology?
Yeah, so I think we were putting that dance video at the beginning because it shows how realistic the result is. If I don't tell you that those are 3D models, at some point you might even think that it's just a normal video of somebody dancing. But those actually you can move, change the perspective, change the color, as you see over there. So it's pretty impressive when you see those fast movements, and you can stop it at any point and see the fingers and see the details in the face. So that's why typically I'd say that ourselves and other volumetric video companies, we always show like dancing stuff. But you're right that right now with the new generation of social media platforms like TikTok, seems like dances is it's becoming like a new way of communicating. And I think that volumetric capture really helps with that, because it's a lot more accurate than what you would get if you were just doing, I don't know, skeleton estimation and then mock up and animating a kind of a cartoonish avatar. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So in a nutshell, 3D AR compatible content that is as easy as video recording, right? So can we say that, like for a lot of bands, right, I think they must have been inspired when they saw this new announcement by ABBA, right, to do a concert where they don't even have to be there physically. Yeah, they could actually tour this thing around the world, and it's just a matter of getting into a room and getting thousands of cameras, right, to capture this 360 video of them performing those songs live or the set list just one time, right, and just replicate that in the production. And they could even like build a one-off arena for it, just to have all these sophisticated equipment in the same space. So are you saying that Volumetric is also able to do something to a certain extent, or similarly to what ABBA is pulling off right now, with less heavy lifting? But of course, there's going to be trade-off in terms of the quality, right? But at least, like for a independent band, for example, who actually want to maybe perform during pandemic times, but the only way to do that is to maybe do a live stream, which seems to be a little bit boring, and everyone has that fatigue right now, right? To see a 2D video performance, they could probably like capture themselves performing maybe a music video, and they could teleport themselves into different backgrounds and scenes, or even in venues around the world. Is that a possibility using Volumetric?
Yeah, definitely, it is. I like, again, the ABBA analogy, because I think that this project has been in the making for a couple of years. I remember seeing the news that ABBA was going to do a hologram tour, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and we expected that it was going to be something like Tupac, as you were saying, like just the Pepper Ghost. However, I think they took it to the next level, and they captured them in 3D, animated them professionally, and now they can actually create something that is a lot more interesting than just seeing a couple of flat holograms in the stage. Now you can put it in VR, you can put it in AR, and I think I'm sure that they're going to create a lot of experiences all around this capture that they did. I think that in any band could right now do something like that, but probably not as high end or as professionally created. But with volumetric capture, you could do it perfectly. There's no issue at all. I think there will be depending on the setup that you would use, it would be a little bit more or less complicated to capture shiny surfaces or the instruments. But in general, we've seen that many studios have already done like pieces with musicians, including ourselves, and it works really well. I think that's the only way that in the future you're gonna want to have this type of concerts in VR or in AR. You want to see the real person, not an avatar of the person. Even though I really liked, the Fortnite concert at the end, that was an avatar that was moving. It was not real. It was not really Travis. So it's I think it has to go to more realistic, more you really see the artist very near, and you can get very close and see it from whatever you want.
I think very well said, because what we really want to see is the merging of this physical and digital. I think that's something that we mentioned earlier in the program, right? And using, this technology, I'm just looking at some of your fun videos that you made, including one where you made a cameo appearance. You were basically collaborating with maybe your fans or your community around the world, right? to create these cool TikTok-like videos, and he's like leveling up in terms of content creation using AR technology, and bands or musicians can even collab with their favorite musicians elsewhere around the world without stepping out of their homes, right? And just capturing themselves and then just superimposing this into different backgrounds or with different other characters and musicians. So can you maybe walk us through in terms of your thoughts about like, even like sports? Maybe you're now venturing, going off a tangent right now, moving from maybe the music world to the sports world. I remember watching a few games where, there were like replays of like goals scored by my favorite team, Liverpool, for example. And they were able to like place the spectator or the TV audience right in the middle of the pitch and actually see how that goal was scored. So it's kind of mind-blowing when I saw it for the first time. I think in Premier League or even La Liga, right? Which I think you follow La Liga. So
I do.
do they like actually place like tons of cameras in Anfield or Bernabeu or Nou Camp Stadium in order to capture these immersive moments for the fans?
Yeah, definitely. That's how they do it. I think it's Intel, the company that is promoting that type of technology, at least in Europe. I know that also in Asia you have Canon and some others. But in general, what they do is that they place around 50 cameras in the stadium, so different points of view, focusing mainly in the goal areas. So then, whenever they decide to want to do one of these instant replays, they do a 3D reconstruction using all those cameras. So they end up having like a volumetric capture of one or a couple of frames that they can play afterwards. So they replicate, like they fake the movement of the camera like it's moving around, because they do have like some kind of 3D reconstruction of the scene. That's literally volumetric capture or volumetric video used in a let's say streaming environment. So you don't need to be VR or AR or any kind of 3D, and still taking advantage of being able to change the viewpoint. I think it's really impressive when you see it for the first time, as you were saying. And I think in Spain, they only have it in like 5 stadiums. I think it's Real Madrid, Barcelona, Atletico, Valencia, and Sevilla, or something like that. I'm a Real Madrid supporter, so I see it all the time, and I really, really like it. I remember the first time that they were putting that in Santiago Bernabeu, the Real Madrid stadium. I had a lot of friends telling me, are you working on this? Is the technology that you're working on? It's like, yeah, it's not specifically us doing that one, because we're focusing in kind of a performers and not like the full stadium, but it is that technology. And it shows a good way that, this technology can be applied in many different fields. There's another good example that they have been doing in the UK with golf. I don't know if you've seen it, where they get the swing of the golfer and then they maybe stop it in the middle, and the kind of the TV presenter goes around and says, take a look at the position of the shoulders and stuff like that. So they are really using it for the sports use case. Yeah.
I think these are fantastic. It's like having all these moments captured and having different angles, especially. I mean, every fan of Real Madrid or Liverpool would love to see Mbappe, right, wearing their Real Madrid shirt or a Liverpool shirt,
Definitely.
and swinging, his foot and scoring a goal, at Bernabeu or in Anfield. I think these are the things that people crave for, because these are also memories that you can keep forever in perpetuity. So why do you think that volumetric video is changing how we keep good memories alive? And instead of just keeping a photo of Mbappe, in a Real Madrid shirt, right, scoring a goal on our work desk, we can actually relive these moments thanks to Volograms, right? We can now actually, have these capabilities to see even like amateur players or even our families or friends playing football, and have those memories of them scoring goals in the field together with us, and just have them perform on top of our table or desk.
Yeah, definitely. So you have to think that the world in general is 3D. Everything that we see around us is 3D, but all the media that we're consuming, most of it is flat, 2D. And that's because that's where it comes from tradition. I mean, I'm watching you right now through a rectangle here in front of me, but that's going to change. I mean, at some point, we're going to be having more and more 3D interactive technologies, virtual and augmented reality. We're going to have holograms, and we're going to have new stuff. And for all those new technologies, we need 3D content. It cannot just be flat. It cannot be like a floating window in the middle of the room. It has to be 3D. We've seen that in the movies, and it makes total sense. The problem is that getting that 3D content is complicated. So I totally believe that once we have AR glasses or all the types of displays that are already in the making, you're going to want to have everything in 3D the same way that you experience it, not just a flat video, not just like an image. So when we started Volograms at the beginning, we saw that doing the volumetric capture process was really complicated and expensive, because it required hundreds of cameras in some cases, pointing inwards, seeing a person that is doing the performance or in the stadium, but it still required like a lot of time, resources, and qualified personnel and processing power. So we were trying to simplify that and doing it with the least number of cameras possible, and also trying to make it as compatible as possible, so people with different types of camera setups could use it. So that was us, at the beginning. A few companies started using our technology to do their own volumetric reconstructions. We put everything on the cloud, but what we always wanted to do is bring that capability to the phone. So you could just take your phone and capture somebody, and that's it. So, of course, as you can imagine, if you only see a person from one single viewpoint, it makes it very complicated to get a full 3D model. So we have to use deep learning and AI in general to estimate the whole volume of the person. And so recently we started testing this new app that we put together, and you were showing a couple of minutes ago on our website that it's Volio. It's our app that allows you to just record a video normally, and that video is automatically transformed to volumetric. Then you can put it in AR directly inside the app. You can play with these filters, and you can have memories. You can record your own memories without the need of having to go to the volumetric capture studio that sometimes is not in your city, or maybe not even in your country, because there's not that many around the world. So it's bringing these capabilities to as many people as possible. This is what we were trying to do, and we think that once people get used to capturing these moments and then sharing them and experiencing them, I think it's going to change the way we express ourselves, the way we share media, and we're going to be fully ready for this 3D world that it's coming.
I simply love, the ease of use, the convenience, especially because everybody owns an iPhone or Android phone, right? So, like, how much of a difference in terms of like having like maybe an iPhone that has 3 cameras versus a normal iPhone with only 1 or 2? We know that the latest iPhones and iPads have LiDAR capture capabilities, right? So would it greatly enhance the quality in terms of the multiple videos that we can create with Volograms, and also basically in terms of like using those technology, those hardware, right, to create even next level content for TikTok or marketing video on Instagram, for example? Do you think that investing in a good hardware these days, can actually level up the game?
Yeah, totally. And for us, what we try to do with Volio is to make it as accessible as possible. So we are not restricting ourselves to the very latest iPhone. We're also enabling a few of the models. I think anything from the iPhone XR and XS. And but it makes a difference. If you have the LiDAR information, you can get more realistic movements and more realistic details. Even though I think we still have a long way to go to get better and more detailed LiDAR depth sensors in general on our devices. But I really think it's a great start. I had seen other time of flight sensors in other devices in the past, which are okay for very close, let's say, scanning. But if you want to scan somebody like full body, the error is way too high and it doesn't work. So the LiDAR in the iPhone, it works really well, but still needs a little bit of work, to make it more advanced and more detailed and less noisy. But yeah, for us, it makes a big difference when you have the LiDAR information.
It's amazing what our phones can already do, right? And great apps like Vologram is really changing the game for content creators, especially. So I think it's really exciting times to be alive. And of course, maybe help us with some technical breakdown in terms of the differences, right, between the different terminology that we keep on mentioning in this show, because there are some listeners as well who listen to this show. They just want to know, maybe get your interpretation and your definition of the difference. Yeah. Maybe can you describe for us, what's the difference between Volograms, avatars, digital humans, AR, VR,
yeah, definitely. And there's no, I guess that there's no like standard definition. It happens the same as with mixed reality, augmented reality. But the way I would describe it is an avatar at the end is a representation of a person. It can be photorealistic, and then we're a little bit closer to a digital human, or it can be cartoonish, which is perfectly fine. I think that many companies choose to be in the cartoonish side instead of being in the photorealistic side, because we have the Uncanny Valley, which is a term that is very known in the industry, where if you try to improve the quality or the realism of your model, it gets more and more acceptable. It gets better, the perception to it, until one certain point where If it's too realistic but not fully realistic, it's very weird. So you're looking at it and it's like, the movements are not realistic, and it makes you feel uncomfortable. And that's why the perception goes down very quickly until you continue improving the quality and it goes up again. So that valley of perception is the Uncanny Valley. So to stay away from the Uncanny Valley, we see that most of the companies that are building avatars and stuff like that try to be, let's say, to the fun, cartoonish, where you can choose whatever you want, sizes, even look like some kind of a monster, nothing realistic at all. So in general, an avatar is something that you create either automatically or either with an editor or something like that, and then you can animate, typically the user. We see this in, Bitmoji or Memojis on the phone, and there's a few very cool companies like Ready Player Me and some others creating really very nice avatars that can be used in many different platforms. A digital human, I would say, it's kind of a photorealistic version of an avatar, but typically it's used by professionals, not that much by the consumers, right? So you scan somebody or have a really high and 3D model of an actor or something like that, and then you animate it using a mocap or something like that, like motion capture with one of these suits like ABBA, right? So then you typically use these things in the movies. So when you see the action with Iron Man or whatever, or with Spider-Man, and he's not wearing the cover of the face, that is a digital human. It's not really the actor most of the time, because they are doing supernatural stuff. The good thing is that they look really, really good, but to make them fully realistic, they require people like a very high-end expert that is gonna see all the details so it doesn't look awkward. And that's the result that we normally see in the movies, that they look very cool. Volumetric video, on the other side, is basically a way of recording a performance in 3D directly without the motion capture and without anything like that. So you have a bunch of cameras, normally, if you do it professionally, pointing at the person or at the performer, and then you record them from all these different viewpoints. And at the end, what you do is do a 3D reconstruction process at every frame of the video. So you end up with a bunch of 3D meshes. And it's basically like doing 3D scan, but instead of doing a static A pose or something like this for like a video game, what you get is a 3D scan of every single frame of a video. And then you play them together, and it looks very realistic, because what you're doing is a 3D scan, and 3D scans are really good. So the great advantage that you have, as I was saying at the beginning, is that you get every little detail of the performer, even the clothing, even, wrinkles in their face, even if they have some, scrappy beard that they didn't shave for a couple of days. You don't have to model that in 3D, because you get that directly from the video. So it's very, very realistic. And it's good when you want to include an actor or a performer into a game, into a movie, or into a VR AR application. It feels so much more realistic than having an avatar or even like a very realistic digital human. So I think it's very important that we have the three technologies. I like volumetric video because I think it's the one that is the least explored of the three, and also probably the most complicated to do, but the most realistic and best when you're experiencing it.
That's a fantastic breakdown of all these differences. Yeah. And I think you're right. All these technologies cannot live together, right? And I was just browsing your Twitter page, and there's a video that caught my attention, because you have explained to us the differences so well. Then how do you explain a video like this one? I'm not sure whether you can see it on the screen right now. This is mine.
Yeah, so that's a fun one. That's actually... Yeah, so it's Gabriel. This is he's from Tivori. It's a kind of a VR prototyping tool. As you can see him in the headset. He's recording himself with a technology like Live that helps you bring yourself in VR into the VR content. And then the little hologram of him that it's on the table, that is actually captured with our app. So he was at the same time captured with Volio, our app, and he's been 3D reconstructed and played in augmented reality. So there is Gabriel looking at his own hologram, and his hologram is being replicated in the screen in VR. So it's basically, it's when you see it for the first time, it's like, what the hell's going on here? But it's so cool. This content is so cool. He's a great. He did a couple of very nice videos using our app, and he's a lot of good ideas.
Fantastic. I think through you, I managed to follow him on Twitter as well. So definitely your Twitter page is one of the more interesting ones, because you have so much great content that they put out about, all these great technology developments, of course. So, we want to maybe ask you one last question before we move on momentarily to the rapid fire segment. So the next question is more about your thoughts about this concept of AR, right? Some say it's controversial, but you prefer using AR instead of the more generic term of mixed reality, which some big tech companies started to push, a few years ago. So, do you think that it follows Milgram's virtuality continuum more accurately? Why do you think this is so? And give us your thoughts. Why you prefer one term over the other?
Yeah, so the thing is that mixed reality is almost anything. It can go from augmented reality to augmented virtuality. So you have on one side of the spectrum, of the Milgram spectrum, you have VR, and then on the other side you have real reality, if you want to call it, and then you have let's say a mix between both, and that is mixed reality. That's why it's called a mixed reality continuum. So when you are putting stuff on top of the real world, I think that's literally augmented reality. So it has nothing to do with augmented virtuality, which would be the other opposite. You are in VR and suddenly you bring something from the real world into VR, and that's still mixed reality. So I think that many companies started pushing the term mixed reality to refer to what I would consider augmented reality. And we were always joking that it's a kind of a big coincidence that the two companies that were pushing it hard were Microsoft and Magic Leap, and both of them start with M. So I wonder if it's not that they wanted to use the M of MR for other purposes.
Marketing, yeah.
I think I'm not a huge fan either, but I'm a little bit happier with using XR as a way of, putting their mixed reality, augmented reality, virtual reality, all the realities into one single bucket, even though I think they are very different. Virtual reality and augmented reality are completely different. They tend to be included always in the same type of explanations and stuff like that, and we get confused all the time. But that's probably because they use the same type of underlying technology, even though they're very, very different, with different applications and different developers and even different tools. Yeah.
That's a very good perspective. And let's move on to the last segment, rapid fire round. So here are the rules. You must give really short and pithy response, one sentence or two maximum. So are you ready?
Okay. I'm scared.
Let's go. What are your proudest life moments?
Oh, wow. That's very complicated. I don't know. I think every time I'm traveling, I really like traveling, and I miss that so much.
What do you want doing less of in 2021?
What I want to do less? Probably less drinking and more exercising.
What do you want doing more of in 2021?
Yeah, I would like to do more exercise, as I was saying.
Your advice? Yeah, sorry, come again.
I was going to say, just in general, live a little bit healthier with this pandemic that has made us stay at home for so long.
Very well said. What's your advice for people in these fields and your industry?
To be resilient and to think that this at some point needs to be a business. So sometimes, even though don't go so research and will be more applied.
Any future ambitions or side projects?
I really like photogrammetry, so I like scanning people in 3D. So I think I will be doing more photogrammetry within the next few months and making it public.
How can people reach you?
They can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Rafa Maloney, and of course on LinkedIn, that's just my name. And of course, they can always go to volograms.com to learn a little bit more about us.
And I believe they could probably go to access all these fantastic links that you just mentioned by also heading to your rafapages.com website, right? So that's your personal page. And of course,
you have it there.
Hologram and all that as well. So
yeah, it's a very short page.
Check it out.
Yeah, it's a very short page. It doesn't have much information, but it has also like a couple of links to my past as a researcher. I used to be a researcher. I did a PhD in this space, so it has all my papers and all my research from the past. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and go there.
Fantastic. So we insert all these links that you mentioned in our show notes. Thank you so much for joining us so early, this morning. And to learn more about special guests, do check out our podcast show notes. You've been listening to the Metaverse Asia Podcast, presented by Proudest Asia. This episode is hosted and produced by me, Wayne Cheong. And today we have Rafael Pagés, who contributed to the success of this live taping. Thank you so much, my friend. Any last words or message to our listeners replaying this podcast on your AirPods or smart speakers later on?
No, thanks so much for having me. It was great to have this conversation with you and getting so much into the details. I love the technical conversation, and as we were saying earlier, if you want to reach me, I'm always answer on Twitter. So thanks so much for having me, and see you next time.
Likewise, next time when I'm in Anfield watching Liverpool, I'll probably make a trip to Ireland to pay you a visit and do a sit down in real life interview with you next time. Yeah. So take care of yourself, my friend. Take care of everyone over there. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. And that's a wrap. We'll be back with more podcasting action. And hopefully next time, Rafael Pagés can come on to our other shows as well. And we also have a Metaverse event coming up. So probably he'll be a very interesting person that we can interview or even interact with, and take group selfies together in the Metaverse world. So that's our plan for the future. And we hope to re-invite him back really, really soon. So with that, it's Saturday afternoon. I'm going to spend some time with my family. I'll see you guys really, really soon. Goodbye.